Okay, this is going to be video. We're going to be covering lesson 3.6. And what we're going to be covering is is just called ands, okay? So we're going to be looking at what a compound inequality is. So compound, if you're thinking about like a compound sentence, right? It's a sentence that's connected by and or. So for example, I am going to the movies and to dinner. So and implies that both parts are true. You're going to go to the movies and you're going to go to dinner. But if I change that and from an and to an or, all of a sudden the meaning changes. I am going to the movies or I am going to dinner. So the or is telling us that this happened or this happened, but only one of them. So and both parts happen, or in math class, that means both parts are going to be true. So whatever answers we have has to work for both. On an or this will be true. So I'm going to the movies or I'm going to dinner. But your answers only have to be true for one. So when we have an or statement, we're going to have usually a lot more answers compared to the and, because on and it's got to be true for both inequalities, or an or it's got to be only true for one of the inequalities. Okay, so let's take a look at what I'm talking about here. So first off, a compound inequality is where I have two or more inequalities, and they're going to be connected by the words and or. So and or. Okay, on an and statement, it must be true for both inequalities. All right, so the answers have to work for both. Okay, and what we're looking at here when we look at graphs, because we're going to be looking at a lot of graphs. When we're looking at graphs, we're looking where do they overlap? Or if you want to think about where do we have like a double line? Okay, so overlap, or we could be looking for what we call, like I said, a double line. Okay. All right, so let's first off take a look at what does a graph for an and look like and how would we write our final answer? And then we'll go to the next page and start taking a look at, okay, how do we solve them? Okay, so if I'm looking on example 2 here, this would be an and graph. Normally an and graph, they overlap in the middle. Not all the time, but normally. All right, they'll overlap in the middle. So what this is saying is my answers are from 2 to 4. 2 to 4, okay? So when you're writing your answers, this is how you're going to write it. You're going to write it 2 to 4, so small number to big number. You're going to put your variable in the middle, and you're always using less than symbols. So the only part you have to really figure out, again, 2, right, to 4, the only thing you have to figure out is closed circle versus open circle. So if I have a closed circle here on that 4, I should have an equal sign on the 4. Okay, now if you think about this just for a second, this guy right here, all right, we have been working a lot on rewriting things. So this would say x, oops, didn't get my pen there, x is greater than 2, right? And x would be less than or equal to 4. Okay, so that's what this is saying here. So if I look at this, this is the same thing just rewritten, and then what we're doing is we're sharing those x's in the middle. All right, so that's why we only write one x down. Okay, all right, let's try it again. So small number, -3, up to your big number, which is on 0, variable in the middle, always less than, and then in this case, we see that we have a closed circle here on the -3, so I need an equal sign on that -3. Again, this is how you are going to write your final and answers. Okay. All right. So now let's take a look. Let's go to the next page here. Okay. So what they're asking you to do on this is they're asking you to solve it and then graph it. Okay. So we just looked at answers in this form. So now let's look at actually a problem in this form. Okay. So what this is when they write it all scrunchy together like this is an and statement. Okay. In the next video or the next lesson, we'll learn about ors. Okay, so this is an and statement. So an and shares the middle. So this n minus 1 is going to go with both outside parts. So you're going to have 5 is less than n minus 1, and n minus 1 is less than or equal to 9. And then you're just going to solve. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides to get those ones to cancel. So I have 6 is less than n. I'm going to do the same thing on this other guy. I'm going to add 1 to both sides, get that to cancel, and get n is less than or equal to 10. Okay? So now, when I'm looking at this, remember, our variable, we have to flip it so that we can graph it. So at this point right now, I have an open circle on 6 heading this way, and I've got a closed circle on 10 heading this way. So what we are looking for again is, where are they overlapping? Well, in this case, they're overlapping right in the middle. So that's going to be your final answer. So what I need to see out of you guys is show me where they overlap. So they have an open circle on 6, we have a closed circle on 10, and where are they overlapping? They're overlapping in the middle. All right? And so now you're going to write your final answer, just like we just practiced. So you're going to write 6 is less than n, which is less than or equal to 10. It's between 6 and 10. Now, quick side note here, okay? I am going to rewrite this problem just off to the side, actually just down here a little bit. So we've got 5 less than n minus 1, and that was less than or equal to 9. Now, another way that you can solve this is you can actually just add 1 to all 3 parts. So you don't have to do a rewrite. You could just do this where that cancels. So in the middle, I have the n left over. On this right-hand side, I've got a 10. And on the left-hand side, I've got a 6. And so when you do, if you do it that way, you're going to see that here's my final answer. Well, guess what? There's your final answer already to roll. Now, you are still going to have to graph it, though. So you're going to have to understand that you are between the 6 and the 10 up here on your graph. Okay, so you would be between, up here on the graph, between that 6 and that 10 right there. Okay? All right, so let's try another one here. So now this one's already broken up. It's individual, so we're going to go ahead and just solve them individually. So I'm going to just rewrite them down here a little bit. All right, so now on this, I'm going to add the 2 over. So I get r is greater than or equal to negative 8. On this guy, I'm going to divide by 2 and get r is less than or equal to negative 2. All right, so now I start my graph. On my graph, I have a closed circle on negative 2, heading in this direction. Negative 8, I have a closed circle there as well, heading in this direction. Now, guys, please don't assume that they're going to go ahead and overlap. You have to graph it to make sure that it's going to overlap, because here in a little bit, we're going to look at special cases where what happens if they don't, okay? So then your final graph, what I need to see on your final answer here is a closed circle on negative 8, a closed circle on negative 2, and you showing me that everything in the middle is where they overlap, okay? Now, write your final answer. So you're going from negative 8 to negative 2. So negative 8 to negative 2. R is our variable. It's in the middle. Always less than signs. And then in this case, we have closed circle on this and this. So I need an equal sign on both of them. And that's going to be your answer. Okay? Again, this guy right here is represented right here. We just wrote them backwards for an and statement. Okay? And again, they're going to share that middle. Share the middle. Okay? All right, let's take a look. Let's drop down and we're going to look at number 7. Okay, so let's review what happens when they are combined in the middle here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it down here just so I have some room to work. Okay, so now I'm going to, instead of breaking it up, I'm just going to solve it from here. So I know the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 5, but I just need to make sure that I subtract 5 from all sides when I do that. All right, so now same sign add, so I get negative 42 is less than 6b, which is less than or equal to 60. Okay, my next step will be to divide both sides by 6. So I get negative 7, b in the middle, and 10. All right, so now I'm going to go up here and graph because my graph is saying it's between negative 7, right? So I'm at negative 7, open circle, close circle at 10, and then I'm shading everything between. Okay, and this works, again, because I can rewrite this, is b is less than 7, and b, oh, you know what, I forgot to flip it, didn't I? So how about b is greater than 7, negative 7, and then b is less than or equal to 10. Okay, so again, if I come up here, I'd have an open circle at negative 7 heading this way, closed at 10 heading this way. So where are they overlapping? They're overlapping in the middle, which is what I'm showing right here. Okay? All right, so just keep in mind, this is what your final answer, though, should look like right there. Okay? All right, let's go to number 8. Okay, so let's practice it again. So 38 is less than or equal to 5n minus 7, which is less than negative 52. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go ahead, kind of draw a wall here. I'm going to add 7, but I'm going to do it to both the outside endings here. So I have a 5n left over in the middle. I have 45 on this side. On this right-hand side, different sign subtract, so I get a negative 45. So now I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides and get 9 is less than or equal to n, which is less than negative 9. Okay, so now this one's a little funky because normally it has to go from smallest number up to the biggest number, and this doesn't do that because I've got a negative 9 out here and not that positive 9. So if I kind of think about this one a little bit, I got n is greater than or equal to 9, and n is less than negative 9, right, when I break it up. Okay, and just keep in mind on that first part here, all I'm doing is rewriting it with my variable up front so I can graph. Okay, so now I go and I look, okay, 9 would be closed circle, which is not even on here, but okay, closed circle heading out this way. Okay, negative 9, not even on our graph either. Open circle going this way. So now when I look at that, remember they're supposed to overlap in the middle, but these guys are not overlapping in that middle. That's a problem. So if they don't overlap, that means they have no answers in common. And if they have no answers in common, you're going to get a no solution for your answer. So you have to be super careful not just to fall into, oh, it's just between here and here all the time. You've got to really look at your answer. It should always go from smallest up to the biggest. If not, that's a red flag that something might be off. Okay, so if you get a graph where they don't overlap, that's going to be no solution. Okay? All right, so your homework is to go ahead and finish problems on page 2 and page 3, okay? The last 4 here on page 3 is just review problems. So you have 6 ands and problems to solve, and then you have 4 review problems to solve for homework. All right, and then that concludes this notes.